with Chestnut. All right, this is the Run with Chestnut episode on how to improve your credit score using credit cards. And I feel like credit cards have gotten a pretty bad rap for being things that you don't want, especially if you want a good credit score. But this episode will hopefully enlighten you on how credit cards can actually be really beneficial to credit scores, right? Simon?
Yes.
Cool. We're joined by our usual cohort, my usual cohort, Simon, who is casting in from his bedroom in Brooklyn.
Yep.
Right? You still been quarantined?
Yes.
You don't sound too happy about that.
And no, and it's extended again. So
that's right, extended. When's the last time you were outside?
Sunday.
And what'd you do?
Actually, walked around. I mean, I went for a drive yesterday night with my cousin again. We walked around for like 2-3 minutes, but both of us did not dress warm enough for the weather. So
yeah, it was pretty chilly. Speak up a little, dude. You're kind of low, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Let's get started. Well, okay. When we're talking about credit score, let's like go over what makes up your credit score first, right? Because I feel like it's kind of not everyone knows what actually goes into it. And so your credit score is basically, it's a number that is a aggregation of 4 different factors. And those 4 different factors are all worth, different amounts, and you add them together and they equal your credit score. And so like a sort of average, but not so good credit score is sort of in the 600s, 700 to like 750 is, pretty good. Anything above 750, 760, all the way up to like 800 is really good. And, 800 to 850 is pretty much like excellent. Right. So I'd say like most people who have good credit have like between 700 and 750. Right. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So if you think about it, it's kind of like when you go through school, you have a report card, right? For all your like math classes and things. So this is kind of like your adult report card. Because it basically says like how responsible you are with all your money and whatnot.
Right.
Right. Okay, cool. Like when's the first time I should say that you ever checked your credit score? Do you remember?
Ooh, no, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I do remember it being in the 700s. I've never had a credit score that was below like in the 700s. So.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's pretty lucky. I think a lot of people have. So,
I will say,
go ahead.
I guess it's also because I don't really spend, like I'm not one of those people that buys things that I know I won't be able to pay off in the month. So
yeah, that's a pretty responsible way to look at it. I'd say probably so. Okay, the first step of any of this is actually let's like figure out what your score is first of all, right? And there's a bunch of free services that'll do that. So like if anyone tries to make you pay for a credit score, like that's kind of a red flag. Like you don't need to pay for it. You can either use a free service like Credit Karma. You use Credit Karma, right?
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah. So like I've checked that out too.
And
honestly,
some credit card. Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. Some credit card apps also give it to you.
That's what I'm going to say. So honestly, like most credit card services today, like American Express, Discover, Chase, I think Bank of America, that's definitely most of them will offer to give you a credit summary within their credit app for free also. So, and I will say, dude, like the 2 that I use or the 2 that I've like checked out pretty consistently is Credit Karma and American Express, right? Because like I have an Amex card.
Right.
And I will say that the Credit Karma score is like it's pretty consistently higher than what Amex tells me. Have you found that to be true? Or have you ever noticed that?
I haven't really played around with the Amex one very much. I think I only checked it once, so I haven't really noticed it.
Okay, yeah, like it's like pretty much every time I check it, it says Credit Karma says my score is maybe 10 points higher than what Amex tells me.
Oh, interesting.
Which is weird.
Okay.
Now, granted, so there's different like credit unions, and this like goes in a bunch of detail that is not really. It's not. I mean, there's like Experian, and there's Trans, whatever the hell, and then there's FICO. Basically, there's TransUnion, and these are just basically different credit agencies that are coming up with their own score, and they'll all be, within a point of two or each other usually. And so Credit Karma gives you two of those credit bureaus, the TransUnion and I should have probably written this down before. TransUnion and the other one, Experian. There you go. And Amex gives you your FICO score, which is like, so they're different unions. Maybe that's why it's slightly different score. Who knows? Whatever maybe the case is, basically, just pick one and just track it, because it'll be pretty much ballpark of where you're at. Right. Yeah. Just again, just make sure you don't pay for it. And honestly, the biggest thing of tracking this stuff, especially with a thing like Credit Karma, because it'll tell you, like, it'll show you all your car loans, your student loans, like it'll list everything, your and if you find something that is wrong, like reported wrong on it, you can dispute it and often get it removed entirely. And the benefit of getting removed entirely is that if you have like a big thing that says like, oh, you failed to make this payment and thus your score is 20 points lower. But if that's wrong, you can get that removed, and that's like a way you can get your score instantly like raised. You know what I mean?
Right. So
like step one is just look at your score, look at where you're at, make sure everything's correct on it. Like make sure all the credit card balances are correct. Like, make sure there are no like false delinquencies or anything like that. And that just takes like a few minutes just to look over. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then we can go into the 4 different things that actually make up your score. And the first one will be late payments or missed payments. Right now, Simon, let's be a little honest here. Have you ever missed a payment completely?
Actually, this past week was the first time ever that I've ever missed a payment.
Like completely?
Yeah.
Oh man, tell me what happened.
Oh wait, what do you mean by completely?
Like you had a credit bill due and you didn't pay it.
Oh, you mean like the minimum payment?
No. So this is all like anything below the minimum. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, well, you know how I bought my drum kit, right?
Okay.
So I was,
for those who don't know, Simon plays drums and he bought a drum kit,
electric drum kit. But also, it was more of the fact that this time I just forgot, like it was a day late or 2 days late. And then I see on my email, I got an Amex notification. I'm like, oh crap, completely forgot that like the other day was the deadline for the payment.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't that you didn't have the money. You literally just forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that sucks. Okay. So first of all, that's good, because usually the credit, like the issuers, aka the banks or whatever, like Amex, they're not going to report it unless it's 30 days late. So if you if you miss it by a few days and you just forget, like, and you just pay it late, like it won't show up on your credit score. You might get like a late fee.
I did.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So you got a late fee, but like it won't negatively affect your credit score most of the time.
Oh, that's
because they know, like, people forget. Right. A really good way to stop that from happening, which is what I do, is just enroll in automatic payments for all your cards, which is really easy to do.
I thought about that.
Yeah. Why haven't you? Or you just didn't really get around to it?
No, it's just more of a fact that, like, to do that, you really have to be responsible and keep track of how much money you have in your bank account. Because the last thing you want to do is
overdraft.
Overdraft.
Yeah. Well, then it becomes the issue of like, what would you rather do? Overdraft a bank account or miss a payment, right? And honestly, between those two, missing a payment on your credit card is probably less damaging than overdraft. Like overdrafting your bank is pretty bad. Yeah. Okay. So I do. I have auto payments on all my cards, and I can get into that later. But one reason I do that is because I have a bunch of credit cards. Like I have a lot of credit cards, and again, we'll go into why later in terms of like why that's beneficial of having a lot of cards. But basically, like, I don't want to be logging into 7 different cards or 10 or whatever and paying every single one it's just a pain in the ass,
Right.
So, I will say though, like I even though I have auto for all the cards, I will actually go in and manually pay my Amex, which is my main like spender. That's where I put most of my stuff. I'll go in and manually pay it. Just, I don't know why. I don't need to, but it's still the habit from before I had the auto. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So anyway, okay. So late payments or missed payments make up 35% of your credit score. So it makes up the largest pool of your credit score, which means it carries the most amount of weight. You know what I mean? If you miss a payment or if you're late, whatever, like that 35% chunk will be impacted. And it's interesting because like how recent that missed or late payment will make an impact, and how long they're late for. For example, like if you're only late a month, it won't affect you as bad as if you're late like 5 or 6 months.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you were late last month, for example, it affects you a lot more than if you were late like 3 years ago.
Right.
So timing definitely matters. And so, okay, we'll get into the whole, like, you know, why I have a bunch of credit cards. Like, well, we'll piece it out at a time. One reason why I have a bunch of credit cards is because the number of late payments per month also matters. So if I only have one credit card and I miss one payment, that's one out of one that's late. Right? Versus if I have, say, 10 credit cards and I only miss one payment, that's 1 out of 10 that's late. So it makes a lot, like the impact is a lot less if I have a bunch of cards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's like one benefit of having a bunch of cards. By the way, if you pay your minimum, that full, like it counts as a paid thing. Like it doesn't count as late if all you pay is your minimum.
Right.
So if you're able to just pay minimum, but you don't have enough money to pay the whole thing, just pay the minimum, worry about the whole thing later. Like that's totally fine. Okay, cool. So the next thing, that's the second out of 4, is basically total credit utilization. You know what that is, Simon?
No, that I don't.
Okay, so it's
wait. Is that where
Go ahead,
is that like, say if you have multiple credit cards, but they're still on the same, like you're still on the same credit line?
No. So each credit card is its own credit line. And just like every loan, like a car loan, student loan, like those are all separate credit lines. And credit utilization means how much of the line you are using. So if I have one credit card that has a limit of $2,000 and I spend $1,000 on that credit card in a month, that's a 50% credit utilization because I've used 50% of the 2,000. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And this is worth 30% of your total credit score. So it's like one step down from the one before. It's worth 30%. And so basically you want to use a maximum of, they say like 10 to 15% of your total credit limit on each line of credit. So if you have one card and that's $2,000 limit on that one card, you probably don't want to go above 10 to 15%. You know what 10 to 15% of 2,000 is, Simon?
No, I have to do the math.
$200 to $300, right?
Right.
And so the other benefit of having a bunch of credit cards is, say I have 10 credit cards, each one has $2,000 credit limit. All of a sudden, that means I have a $20,000 credit limit, right? So that my credit limit, the total credit I have is a lot higher than if I just have one card. That way, if I spend, a total amount of money over, like spread across, like it doesn't look as much. And which is, I mean, there's a lot that could be said about this. We're trying to like keep it simple. But it's like one argument for opening up multiple credit cards, so you don't have to like max out a card. Because like if you have a limit, if this is your first card and your limit's like $500, and you spend $100 on it, even 100, that's like 20%. That count. It might not look like a lot of money, but percentage wise, it counts as a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you're saying that if I have an Amex card or an Amex account and I have different credit cards with Amex, those are still different credit lines.
Yeah.
But it's the same amount. Like the credit limit is still one.
No. That's all separate. You'll have a separate limit per each card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is why it's one argument of why it's good to have multiple cards, because then you build up that total credit. amount. If you have like 2,000 with one, 2,000 with another, like it's,
I thought it was the same in the sense that like if you have multiple credit limits in the Amex account, then like altogether, that's if you add all that up, then the percentage that you spend, like you're more free to spend with that percentage, or
it won't count as high of a percentage if you have a higher total.
Right. Oh, okay. That's what I'm. Okay.
That's why it's like if you want to, and also again, like if you're trying to apply for a car loan or something, and that's a $30,000 loan or whatever it is, if you only have a $2,000 credit limit versus 15, 20,000, it just looks like you have a lot more credit.
Right.
That's available to you, and also very important that you're not using. Right. That doesn't mean go out and max out all these cards. Like the whole point. Like I have a bunch of cards. I literally only use one of them, and that's my Amex. Like every other card, I charge like $1 or $2 a month on it just to keep it, just to show some activity, and I pay it off. Always important, right? Pay it off completely every month. But like you know what I mean? Like it's literally it's just there to have a good impact on the score.
Nice.
Okay, so the next two we can go through pretty fast. It's pretty simple. The third one is average length of credit lines. Basically, how long have you had the credits open for? And this is why you don't want to cancel old cards, because those old cards are positively impacting your score because it shows that you have this history and responsibility,
Right.
So like, this is worth 15% of your credit score. Basically, if I have one card that's 5 years old, another card that's, 3 years old, and another card that's 2 years old, my average time is going to be like, 3 point whatever, 2 or 3 years. Right. So that means if I open a bunch of credit cards now, my average length of credit lines will go down because it would skew towards today. Right. Which is fine, because a year or two from now or 3 years, it'll all start getting older. You know what I mean? That's why like I'm a huge fan of like the moment you turn 18, you need to start like building your credit score, because like right before you buy a house or right before you buy a car in your 20s or 30s or whatever, that's not the time to start taking out a bunch of credit cards and lowering your score,
Right. Yeah.
Like get that out the way first. So basically, take away from that, don't cancel old cards. Especially, I mean, if they're free, like no annual fee cards, just keep them somewhere, man. Just like buy something every month or two or so. Just buy like a pack of crackers or something.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one, simplest, is how many lines. Basically, if you only have one line of credit, aka one credit card, it's not very deep of a history. Versus if you have 5 credit cards, a car loan, a mortgage, like you have a bunch of different things, it'll look like you're very diversified and you're like responsible. You're able to pay back things on time. That's worth 10%. That's basically where your credit score is, right? You add those the 4 things together, 35, 30, 15, 10 equals 100% of your credit score. And that's out of 850 points. And so again, like anything above 700 is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And then the other parts is basically just, things that goes without saying. If you have a bankruptcy, if you have a bunch of like outstanding like delinquencies or hard inquiry, stuff like that, like that'll temporarily, that'll show up on your score. Basically, that kind of goes without saying, right? Don't have bankruptcies, don't, whatever. Like you get the point.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was your first credit card, Simon?
The TD Bank one.
But what kind of card was it? Do you remember?
Oh, it was just a regular cash card.
You sure about that?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm probing you, but I know the answer, and that's not the right answer.
No. Well, okay. I see what you're getting at. Okay. My first, technically credit card, it was called a secured credit card.
There you go. Yeah.
So what was that? When or what?
What was it? Like, what is it and why'd you get it?
So
I remember we talked about this like years ago.
No, yeah, we did. Okay. So I didn't have a credit score. And in order to get a credit card, like an actual credit card, before you get one, they want to know, the people who are giving you the credit card want to know if you're responsible, what score do you have. And so,
which, hold on, I should say it's not just you, right? Like no one has a credit score,
right?
Because you haven't had credit yet,
right?
So,
Now, what
okay, go
people
on.
can do, what people can do, which I didn't want to do, is they could have a credit card under their parents' name.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. So I signed up for my own bank, TD Bank. And so what they did was, what a secure credit card is you take a certain amount of money, say the minimum amount, I believe, like $1,000, and you give it to the banker, the teller, and then they put that and like they save it, and then they give you your credit card, which has that $1,000 limit that you put in there. And now, if anything happens, if you're late making a payment, or basically if you're late making a payment, what they do is they will then take money from that $1,000. And
and well, granted, it would take probably more than for you to just be late. Like if you were just literally not able to pay it back,
anything. Right?
They hold that money in like collateral or as collateral.
And so,
yeah,
for a whole year, that's what I had. And then automatically that card, because I was on time all the time, they realized, okay, he's responsible. He's developing a good credit score. Let's turn that card into a cash card.
Right. So then you got into like their entry level credit card. Yeah. And I'll say like a lot of banks won't do that automatically. You'll have to like call and ask to be for it to be like the card to be changed. Also, you can choose. So usually, like I know Wells Fargo, Chase, most banks have some sort of secure card where you could like give them cash and they'll lock it away and just give you a card with the limit of the amount of money you threw away or you gave to them. And it's usually between $500 and $2,000. That's a really good way to start building up your credit, because it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to get that. Right. Because there's no risk to the bank because you're giving them the cash to back up just in case you can't pay it back. So if you have the cash to spare, I would do that. And again, follow all the principles above, right? Like don't miss a payment. Don't be late. Pay it off in full every month. That's also the other myth, that they have to like carry a small balance from month to month for the like the credit score, for the credit to like have something to report. Like that's not true. Just paid off totally in total every month. And okay, cool. So actually I will say that I was the same. That was my first credit card as well. The secure card. And okay, so then the card after that, which makes sense to get, which I'll say right now, I didn't listen to this. Like I totally skipped a step, which is not good to do, but I didn't really know better at the time. But so the next logical card is to get a regular credit card, like Simon was talking about, with no annual fee, right? And so your first few cards, you want them to have no annual fee, because that way you can keep them for pretty much the rest of your life. And, have those, remember the whole like length of credit thing, right? Like that counts towards your credit score. If you have a card, your first card is obviously going to be your oldest card, which means it'll make your average length of credit longer. If that card has a $500 annual fee every year, that's painful. Like what if you want to cancel that one day? Like you don't want to get rid of that old score, right? So basically just have even like 2 or 3 cards with little to no annual fee as your first card. So you can just have it, hold on to it, not cancel it for the rest of your life, pretty much.
Right.
You know what I mean? My second card after that first one was actually an Amex Gold card, which has as the time of this recording is a $250 annual fee. Now I got that because I was like, okay, it has like a bunch of dining credit, whatever. Like we can make another episode on.
Yeah. And isn't that a cash card?
It is a cash card, which it's good because a cash card. Okay. That's a very good point. Amex has what's called cash cards. A lot of their cards are cash cards. There's pros and cons. The pro of a cash card is that there is no limit. Now that generally means that you don't have to worry about the percentage of credit utilization, right? You don't have to be like, make sure I'm under 10% or 15% of my total. Like there is no limit. So you can pretty much, you can spend as much as you want, obviously, if you can pay it back without worrying about credit limits. The downside of cash cards is that it does not show a total credit limit, which means your total, the total credit that you have available to you is still whatever your secure card was. You know, like when I had just the Amex and the secure card, my secure card was $2,000 like limit because I gave them $2,000 in cash. My credit limit was still $2,000 because my Amex Gold charge card didn't show that it had any credit, you know, like total credit.
Right.
So like that's not a good card to get as your second card. You know.
And now also, if you at the end of the month there is no minimal payment, you have to pay back the whole thing.
You do have to. Now they do have payment like options if you want to do kind of month to month. They're a little like not sketchy, but like it's not the purpose of the card, right? Like the purpose of the charge is to pay it back every month.
Right.
So go ahead.
And I believe if you pay it late, your interest fee is a lot higher.
Oh, with any of these, if you do not, either on a regular credit card where you do not meet the minimum,
right,
or on a charge card, like if you got to pay interest, like, oh Lord, man, like credit card interest is probably like one of the highest interests that's out there, you know.
Although once your secure card ended, didn't that also automatically turn into a entry level bank cash card?
It did, but like I said, with yours, like not it won't automatically turn into it all the time. You know what I mean? Like mine, it took a few years for them, like, because I just honestly, I just forgot about it. Like I never really used it. So it took a few years for me to like, I looked back one day, I was like, oh, it's all of a sudden it's not all of a sudden those $2,000 that I gave to them to lock away, that suddenly was like in my bank account. And it all of a sudden was not a secure card anymore, you know?
Right.
So honestly, like what I would do if I was starting over is like secure card first. And then your second and third cards would be like entry level, no fee credit cards, like, you know, like the Chase Freedom, or even like the bank. I mean, all the banks have their versions of it. I like Chase and Amex the best because I think their points are worth a good amount. And more importantly, or not more importantly, equally as importantly, the portals that you can spend those points are actually like are robust, you know, versus some other. Go ahead.
Sorry. We should talk about maybe in the next episode how to spend points, what they're good for, and
definitely
what not to spend them on.
Because you can really leverage points. Like it's complicated. Like you have to transfer points through different portals and send them to like 3 different. But like if you do it, you can get a lot from it.
And you could really fuck up with them too.
That's what I say. Crash course. Do not exchange points for statement credits.
Don't.
That's like the least.
Yeah.
The least valuable, but yeah, we can get into that.
Don't use it to pay a credit card bill.
That's what I'm saying. Don't use them as a statement credit to pay a credit card bill. You're literally going to get pennies. Like it's not good. And obviously there are ways to leverage, right? Like all these credit cards you're signing up for, you should be getting sign up bonuses. For example, like the Chase Freedom, which is like probably one of my favorite entry level cards for like your second card or your third. You spend $500 in the first 3 months or something, you get $200 in cash, like stuff like that. Like all these cards have their sign up bonuses. You should be hitting those bonuses. Like don't miss out on them because they're worth a good amount.
Yeah. Don't do what I did.
Yeah. But we'll do a whole other thing on credit card perks and whatnot. But anyway, yeah. So like to wrap it all up, the Amex Gold should honestly have been my fourth or fifth card. Should not have been my second card, but whatever, it's a good card. I like it. So it's fine. Cool. So, I mean, that's basically how you improve your credit score using credit cards, right? It's pretty straightforward. Like just use those 4 different parameters to leverage different credit cards and build them up over time, right? Don't, be responsible. Don't just use this as an excuse to buy a bunch of stuff on your 5 or 10 credit cards. Just, like majority of your spending should literally be on 1 or 2 cards. Like the rest of them, just buy like pay for like a coffee or something just once a month, just to keep them active. Any closing thoughts, Simon?
No.
That's about it, right? Nothing much else to say.
That's right.
Cool, man. All right.
I learned.
Go ahead. What?
No, I'm just saying. Now I know some stuff too.
Yeah. But listen, man. The best way to learn, like for me, the best way to learn is to like teach. Yeah. And so like I obviously I knew this stuff, but putting all the info together for this, like it definitely reminded me just of stuff that I knew and just kind of let slip or forget.
Right.
So it's all good, man. All good all around. All right. This is the finance episode one. The first installment of the Chestnut Finance Edition. My book on personal finance will be coming out tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. That'd be whatever. All right. Goodbye, everyone.